It's after 10 o'clock, so just want to start with thanking everybody, all the attendees that are joining us today to talk about, protecting and managing secrets with us. So why don't we go ahead and get started? A little bit about ourselves. My name is Gilbert Martin. I head up customer success and solutions engineering, and we have a background in DevOps for the last 10 years, managed teams, DevOps teams, built teams, and had a lot of different tools and deployments in the past years, specifically on the cloud, running AWS and Azure workloads. So that's a little bit about me. Derek, do you want to give a quick intro?
My name's Derek Ross. I'm the lead solutions engineer here at Opsera, and I've been a practitioner for about 10 years. I've been a DevOps engineer, technical product owner for release engineering processes and tools, and a solutions engineer for the last few years. Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Derek, for the intro. So let's talk a little bit about secrets and data breaches. I think a lot of us, that are in DevOps or in some form know about security or know of security, and we like this meme, that we declare a data breach because we've seen a lot of them out there, right? We didn't purposely put those in here because I think the industry already knows about the the SolarWinds, the Mercedes of the world, the Code Cove of the world, where there's just been breaches, right? But it's not just about the breaches; it's about the reputation of a company, the business value that companies lose when there is a breach, and depending on the size of your organization, within 500, less than 500 employees and above 500 employees, of the cost of implication of how much it costs a company to really pay for that breach. The trust is broken for the customers. It's really hard to gain that trust back. And it costs, billions of dollars, right? So here's a little bit about the biggest data breaches from, 2004 to 2021. I'll focus on the 2021 areas, but this is a good breakdown, I'll call it, of the latest breaches that happened. And these slides will be available if you're interested in looking at the breaches. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think there is already a problem statement of why secrets and why people are attacking the supply chain specifically. So I'll do a quick poll here. Why don't we launch a poll really quick and managing how everybody's managing their current secrets. So give it a few minutes here for people to vote. But why don't we go through that poll and see where we're doing storing those secrets. All right, so maybe a few minutes or seconds here so that everybody can finish. Cool. And while you guys are doing the poll, I don't think we put an option here to, if you're storing secrets in like a key pass or maybe a spreadsheet or something like that, right? We really didn't take those, but I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and then we'll check out the results here. So it looks like majority of you store the stuff in Vault, which is really cool. Looks like a small percentage of you have it in central libraries and hard-coded source code. So we'll talk a little bit about how do we stop secrets from getting into your source code and those central libraries. So let's move on. So when the industry is moving everything as code world, right? So everybody should own security, is starting from the most left side, from the developers to the DevOps teams building the tools, from the developers building the features and innovation, but in practice, security has just been an afterthought, right? There is silo teams that we still see in the industry, in the enterprise. There's manual secret discovery in a form of hard-coded source code or centralized libraries, or even sometimes people just put them straight in the Confluence pages or in a spreadsheet or on a notepad somewhere, right? From a security point of view, we see a lot of, I'll call it transactions, where there's this, what we call technical security reviews, and there's this big overarching, form, and that goes back and forth and can take, weeks, months to just be able to get through that security process. And then security alone has a bunch of tools that they operate maybe within silo and not always integrated into the pipeline with DevOps. And some of those security tools that you might recognize here can be open source or enterprise, but not all of them actually check your code for secrets. So I'll do a quick pull here again on another question to maybe understand how do you protect secrets in your current environments? So, or how do you protect from introducing new secrets? Do you do a technical security review, which is a TSR? Do you do it manually? Is it in scripts, open source, or we really don't think about it, or we really haven't done anything about it? Okay, just give it a few more seconds here for everybody to respond. And while everybody's responding, with secrets, right, we see a lot of organizations using the frameworks like the NIST, etc., NIST framework for secure software development, or we'll see the executive order that the president gave out last year about securing your supply chain. So this is just one part of that supply chain that we're discussing today. Great, I'll give it a few more. There's a few more people still haven't responded. So I'll go ahead and end it. It looks like everybody stopped with the poll. So I'll end the poll. Let's share the results. So it looks like a lot of you use scripts to detect secrets, and some of them do use a TSR process. So manual and TSR process is very common. Surprising, we have a 29% that really don't think about it. So it's cool. I'm glad that you guys are here. Hopefully, we're able to share some knowledge here and pick it up. All right, let's move on. All right, so secrets management detection. Scan your repos early and often, right? I think in our DevOps journey or an operations journey, we kind of laugh about the Dos Equis guy, right? He doesn't always drink beer, but when he does, he drinks Dos Equis, right? It's super famous commercial, but we use this meme a lot in production. We don't always test code, but when we do, we test in production. Kind of similar here, right? We don't always think about security, but when we do, it's too late and we test it in production. And therefore, that's when these bad actors grab those secrets and attack us, right? Same thing with the Gandalf image, right? Keep it secret, keep it safe. So a little bit about how we detect those things, right? We got to make it simple and make it easy and frictionless to our developers to be able to kind of remove the silos and remove the transaction process that we took a pull of earlier from a TSR process, right? We want to be able to scan a pre-commit or pre-pull request capability so that it goes, the feedback loop gets right back to the developer, right back to the persona quickly, right? And then scan at your source code level, even before you start building pipelines. But that's kind of from a detection capability. And then, let's break down the silos between developers, DevOps, and security so that we can have a cohesive, team together, even if it's virtually or a dotted line, right? But bring those teams together. From a protection capability, we want to, supply chain tool compromises, right? This is where we want to focus on, and we want to be able to shift way left and detect those secrets. Again, secret compromise, we talked about that, and then protect your infrastructure, right? Because a lot of the attacks that we see is from, like, let's say AWS tokens or Azure, tokens that we see out there, that get compromised. They use those tokens to be able to access your infrastructure, and then they gain access to the build systems, and then they're able to inject code in the build systems, right? So a lot of the compromises that you see out there on slide 2 is because of those issues. And then use secrets as a store, right? I know we have HashiCorp as a free open source version. And that's a great vault, right? But you got to build the vault, you got to maintain the vault, you got to inject secrets and in that vault. So we'll talk a little bit about those secrets. Since we're there, let's take a quick poll on which tool and how many maybe source code management tools do you have today? Cool. And then I will we'll wait for this poll to finish, and then we'll have I'll hand it over to Derek. Okay. So it looks like popular tools, source code managers are, GitHub and GitLab. Yep, we see that a lot in the market. No Bitbucket, which is surprising, and other. Would love to hear what others are. I think those others are like something like Perforce or something else that I may not be aware of, but those are enterprise level tools. Cool. And then a lot of companies have one, and about 50% have two or more. So okay, awesome. So let's end the poll and let's share the results so you can see what I was seeing as well. So this is kind of the results. So it's pretty common. Yeah, 57% of the market is GitHub, GitLab, and then you have other. All right. So I'll stop sharing. I'll hand it over to Derek. We'll cover the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a solution called GitCustodian that seeks to solve a lot of these issues. One of the questions that you just answered is having multiple repositories. That's something that I see very common in large enterprises where teams are siloed, they need to get things done on their own. And so they've got multiple instances of on-prem GitHub, cloud GitHub, on-prem GitLab, and cloud GitLab. And that can be a really strenuous situation for a centralized team, or when you're trying to move over to another centralized repository, and you need to make sure that everything in your current repository is good. So we have the ability to scan existing source code repositories in minutes, whether you have 10 repos, 100 repos, or 500 repos. You can scan those and quickly get a report that will allow you to understand what the state of your repositories are. You can also detect and remediate prior to the pull request to make sure that you're not introducing any secrets into your new code development. And that's all done through our automated workflows. Once you find those, though, what do you do with them? Do you go stand up a vault? Do you put them into an Excel spreadsheet and manage it? Do you email those around? No. We need a place to store it. And a lot of times setting up a vault or getting things migrated can be very complex. It can be very tedious. You might not even have control over that. And so Opsera has an easy way to securely store secrets and keys with the built-in vault. And if you do have your own vault, you have the ability to bring that in, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the demo. And so those are going to allow you to stay compliant with your governance entities. And if you go ahead and go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so before we go to the next slide, I'll launch a quick poll of how many repos do you guys have in your organization. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds here so people can answer. And you may not know, and that's okay. It's just we're trying to gauge like the repositories. Repositories are super important for us to check against secrets. I think we mentioned earlier hard-coded secrets and libraries. So all right, I think we're almost there. A few more seconds here. I think we have 2 people left. All right, I'll end the poll and then share the results. So it sounds like about 38% have less than 100, 38% have more between 100 and 500, and 500 and 1,000. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I think that definitely helps with the problem here. I'll stop here. let's move on to the next slide. Go ahead, Dirk.
In order to effectively manage something like this, where a lot of you are saying you have 500 to 1,000 repositories, you need, and especially if those are distributed across multiple instances, multiple tools, multiple accounts that have visibility, you need some type of single pane of glass that allows you to get observability on what's going on. When we drive our car, we have a dashboard that has everything in front of us and all the information that we need to know to drive that car. And that's the same concept, is we need a dashboard that's going to give us the state of what's going on so we can make quick decisions. So we have the ability to bring in the reports that you have into that single pane of glass across all the different repositories that you're scanning, across multiple different types of source control management tools. So you're going to be able to automate the actual catching of those secrets. You're going to be able to have visibility, to have that ability to have transparency and governance. Next slide, please. So now we're going to get into a short demo about how to do that with Opsera and how simple and easy it is to actually implement. So the very first thing I want to start out and talk about is scanning existing repositories. So if you're on a team and you need to take your repositories from one repository to a centralized repository, or you just want to understand the state of your team's repositories or your company's repositories, Opsera has a task that allows you to do GitCustodian scan. So here you can see we have tasks. We have different types of tasks for different products, whether you're setting up infrastructure, but today we're specifically talking about scanning repositories. And you can see I have this task here. And what this task does is allows me to set up the scanning of some repositories. So I can go in and I can actually configure this task. I can name it, select the type of task it is, which is GitCustodian, give it a short description. And then I can select what account I want to use. I want to use GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket, which account I want to use in that particular tool, how many secrets I may want to allow, or if I want to exclude certain secrets, maybe I have certain strings or certain assets that I want to keep and maintain, and that's just the way it is. So I want to exclude those. Down here, I can select all the repositories I want to scan, and I can put those in the selected repositories. Here, I can see everything that I have set to scan, and when I run that task, it will create a report for me of what it finds. Here in the activity logs, I can see an example of one of those reports. Here's a given run. I can go into the report. I can see who the author of that was, so I know who to talk to, what commit it belonged to with its hash, the path in the repository to find that secret, what line in that path it is. I can follow a link to it, and then I can see a private key or what kind of secret it was and what repository it's in. So I have all the information that I need to get to the source of the issue quickly. Over time, I'm going to have multiple scans, and I want to be able to have that single pane of glass across multiple tools. So here you can see I have an origin of GitLab, and I also have an origin of GitHub. I can see the same information that I was just speaking to. I can download this into a report, whether it's a PDF or a CSV file. So if I want to export this and actually take this and present it in another fashion, I have that ability. I can see where the top secrets are coming from. And I can see how many repositories I've scanned and how many are clean versus how many are unclean and have secrets that are allocated in them. If I want to actually create a JIRA ticket against these, so I can set time aside to prioritize the work, I can select the JIRA tool that I have, select the project that I want to add it to, select the issue type I want to create, and then the secrets that I actually want to assign to that ticket. So we talked about how to scan an existing repository. Now we want to get preventive, and we want to stop secrets from entering the development workflow. So if I go to pipelines, you can see we have all types of pipelines. We have pipelines that can deliver to Kubernetes. We have pipelines that can deliver Salesforce use cases. And the common thread here is they all have code. So they're all points of exposure for putting secrets in. So we can go in and see how we can add a step to any given pipeline, whether it's Salesforce or whether it's a traditional software development pipeline. Our pipelines look all the same. You can see here all our metadata and our logs. And in the workflow, if we want to add a step, all we need to do is edit the workflow, add the step, and then configure the card. Here's our GitCustodian card, and it's set against the branch that we want to scan. Here, it's very similar to the way we set up the entire repository scan, except we're going to select a specific branch. So every time we run the workflow against this branch, we can set how many secrets we want to allow, if any, or we can exclude certain secrets from being detected in the scan so that we can maintain whatever procedures that we want to in our repository. You can see that this failed. So it actually found some secrets and it stopped the workflow here. If I want to notify someone on the fly that this is happening, we have the ability to email, create a Jira ticket, send a message in Microsoft Teams or Slack, or create an incident in ServiceNow so that this can be allocated and worked on. Here we can see the individual report for a given run. This is on the branch, and we can see the commit. We can also see the path so we can go and fix it. And there's a link that will take us directly to the repository. We can see the secret and we can work on it directly from there. So that's a high-level demo of how we do our tasks for GitCustodian and how we do preventative workflow protection, and then how we also get into finding secrets in our existing repositories. I'm going to give a little bit of time for Q&A and for our wrap-up.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. To summarize, guys, I just want to, even if you don't look at Opsera, right, I just want to summarize that secrets is a large growing problem, as you saw earlier in the industry, right? Architectures like microservices and, everything as code, infrastructure as code, security as code is now opening the door for storing secrets and, like you guys said, in libraries and hard-coded secrets. So you want to move away from that. Right. If you take anything from this huddle, please get a secret management program, work with your security team, and get a secret scanning tool out there. Right. Either if you do it yourself or you come to Opsera or do something different. Right. From a remediation, a prioritization, prioritize your production. Obviously, I think that's a given, but just want to put that out there. Make it frictionless with your developers to be able to get that feedback loop, right, immediately back to the developer to be able to interact with that developer and make it frictionless and transactionless, frictionless environment, and then store your secrets in a vault, right? I mean, it's difficult, but even your communication from service to service communication from like a tool, from one CI CD tool to another, those secrets are important, right? So store those in a vault or in a secrets management, right? So, just remember that, while you're going through your attestations or your security team is asking for specific verification or, a proof that you've done that, with, let's say you're doing your CIS or your SOC 2 compliance. I mean, those are important attestations. So just, be on the lookout for that.
We have a couple questions in the Q&A that I want to cover. So one of the questions was, how do you set the policy classification of what is a secret or not? So one of the things I showed is how you could exclude a specific file or a specific secret in either the group scan or in the individual scan. But we actually maintain a large library of different types of secrets, whether they be AWS access key formations, high entropy strings that might be base 64 encoded, or something labeled with password, and that's ever expanding. And so the customer doesn't have the ability to define what a secret is, but we have a large amount of data to set what common secrets are being introduced, and we protect you from those. And if you decide that that's not important to you, you have the ability to exclude it. I hope that answers your question. And then Gilbert answered the question about Heroku and the chat. And I think that is all our questions, and we have 2 minutes left.
All right. So thank you for that. The poll will be the raffle will be based on a poll, so it'll be a dynamic or anonymously selected, and our staff will follow up and give you guys that gift card. So thank you very much for joining, and hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And reach out to us even if you need some guidance or anything that we can help with, or more information on just how to protect secrets. Thank you and have a good evening.